one of the big stories of the week was the, and I quote, catastrophic car... No, sorry, hold on, let's get that absolutely right. The near-catastrophic car crash / collision. I think it was that. Anyway, let's get a royal update from a man who looked so dapper at the coronation. Probably not so dapper this morning. I always get the thin end of the wedge. Belly, good morning. Rupert Bell, how are you?
Very well, thank you. Yes, I thought I was going to have a quiet time after the coronation, but it's been a bit of a strange week. Suddenly, 3 o'clock a couple of days ago, you get to see that press release and you think, wow, what's going on here? But I'll tell you what, the last 48 hours, the story's not probably gone the way the Sussexes wanted.
Yes. So I... Quite rightly, one has to, because we don't know. And let's make the point, absolutely, that if we sit on any television network or radio station and say this is made up or this is all part of a big advertising, whatever you want to say, we have to remember what happened to Diana and we have to be responsible and say we don't know that whatever is true. Unfortunately, on that very day, I will simply throw this into the mix. There was, of course, the report on the front of the Sun and other newspapers that he'd lost his argument in the court that he should, in fact, be able to hire the Met, you know, so there was a big thing about security. I'm not saying the Paps didn't follow him. I get that. We had on Piers Morgan, uncensored, of course, the taxi driver who said, well, there was a few people, but I got them back. They seemed OK. We had the mayor of New York, and I know this from living in New York for 3 years. It's impossible to have a high-speed car chase through New York. You can't go 5 yards without stopping. However, I get this. The FDR, and you can see those pictures on screen right now, there are people around them, and that would have been very, very scary. What I want to put to you, Belly, is this. Because of what we know and what's happened in the past, there is cynicism, isn't there?
That's the problem for the Sussexes, and this is their big problem, because even when, you know, I was just thinking about this very issue this morning, when you think Spare came out, what happened? They were lampooned. Harry was lampooned in South Park and various other things. They don't seem to be able to win the PR battle, because they become a figure of fun. Because as soon as it came out, all New Yorkers were saying, well, no one ever been at 80 mile an hour at any time.
FDR, so well, let's make the point about the FDR. Listen, I've lived there, but yeah, that doesn't paint this picture. And then why did they get in a taxi? What security firm in the world, which is why people will think, what security firm in the world would put the Duke and Duchess of Kent, Sussex even, so got that wrong, in a taxi in New York City? That doesn't make any sense. Well,
I suppose the case of the defence malud I would have is there are an awful lot of yellow cabs in New York, and maybe they thought they could lose them that way, because obviously there would be plenty on the streets, and it would be more anonymous than going around in a sort of great big SUV, which is what they were travelling.
Well, let me add this to the mix. The night, I don't know what was it, the Miss, I don't know what it was, but Meghan got an award for being this most incredible icon. Well done, Meghan. Thank you for everything you bring to the party. I should say that, you know, politely at 25 to 8. Why on earth did the Sussexes or the Sussexes security or the Sussexes people not be having a conversation, right, where they say to the organisation, it's going to be bedlam for us, put us in a hotel, give us some security? I'm not saying... I mean, for me, it should focus his bloody mind on the fact that he needs to get his own house in order. We ain't paying for it, Harry. Sort it out. Needs to be better.
Well, and the thing is, if they basically nothing had happened, all we would be talking about is picking up that award, and people would say, you know, whether you disagree or agree, she got an award. That would have been the story, and it would have been part of the reboot of Meghan that we've been seeing over the last sort of few weeks.
A reboot, that's what I mean. Didn't appear at the coronation, and then suddenly... That's the problem they have. And I don't care whether this upsets anybody. There have been so many mistruths and so many things bent round in different directions that people find it hard to read. And the tragedy of this is that if it is genuine, not for me to decide, it could be lost because of the BS that's come out of both of their mouths.
Well, but the whole thing is now we've got so many different variations and versions of what happened after the awards ceremony, and so therefore their PR is all on this now, and they become slightly lampooned as a result, whereas they wanted to focus, so look how good we are, look at the good work that Meghan is doing. Instead, they've become the butt of jokes. Now, we don't know exactly what happened, and clearly there were moments that probably Harry, Meghan, and his mother-in-law probably felt a little uncomfortable with what was going on.
So
But
why are they in a
really,
yellow cab, for Christ's sake? New York City is one of the busiest and most populated areas. By the way, and I don't know if Harry and they've demanded an agency hand over photos and videos taken by the paparazzi during what they've described as a near-catastrophic car chase in New York this week. The agencies refused. So then, of course, you know what happens? This is what happens to the great British public. Watching and listening now, they go, do they want them handed over so they can prove that actually this happened? Or do they want them handed over because it isn't what the story's turned into? So, and this is going to happen again and again and again.
Exactly, and actually the agency has said no, because we don't have that. We have no legal right to have to do that for you. And almost implying, well, it may be all right to, if a king asks you, but we don't have a king, is the gist of their reply. So you get the fact that now, so the Sussex's story, and even their spokesman has had to backtrack on stories, because he said he was briefed to say 80 miles an hour and then realised, well, maybe that's not quite so right.
It's not possible. It's not possible.
So, exactly. So the whole thing, yes, something must have gone on.
Yeah.
But it's the exaggeration of it that actually has caused them the PR problem. Because if they'd said, look, it'd been a difficult night, we weren't very comfortable, but just said, look, please, made some statement saying, please, in future, can you try and avoid doing that? Instead, they've sort of given it the over-the-top hyperbole that has actually led to this problem now, that no one really believes their side of the story. So their PR team need to look very hard at how this has played out for them.
Or maybe they just have to learn to tell the truth. Very quickly, Billy, always a pleasure. Queen Elizabeth II's funeral and events during the period of national mourning cost the government an estimated $162 million. Nobody dare criticise the Queen or anything like that on my watch. Republicans are jumping up and down and saying that's an obscene amount of money to pay in the middle of a cost of living crisis. What's your response to that?
Well, look, I think Winston Churchill's funeral cost $1 million, and clearly, but chives have moved on, because a great swathe of that would have been the security operation. Yeah. And actually, you've got to look at it in the context, because a lot of events, for instance, we go to Cheltenham, they talk about the economic impact to an area.
Yes.
What was the economic impact of that week? Now, it was a sad week, but it did mean that lots of people came to London. So what was the benefit, not only short term, but maybe long term for Britain? So that's where you've got to weigh it up against that 167 million. And the same will apply to the coronation, because we'll obviously hear about the cost of that. And yet I do know, having been on the streets, all you could hear were lots of overseas visitors coming to experience a uniquely British occasion. So I think that's the balance that's got to be worked out. But of course, the monarchists are going to say that. The Republicans are still going to believe that that's an awful lot of money and a waste of time.
Billy, as ever, fantastic. Thank you so very much. Rupert Bell.